the tapestry of family life. The sun had just begun to rise over the small town of Maplewood, casting a golden hue over the quiet streets. In the heart of the town, nestled between a row of quaint houses, was the Hot family. The Bennets were an ordinary family, but their lives were woven together by the threads of love, laughter, and the occasional tear. Their story was not one of grand adventures or dramatic twists, but rather a tapestry of everyday moments that, when stitched together, created a beautiful and intricate design. At the center of this tapestry was Sarah Bennet, a woman in her early 40s, with a warm smile and a heart full of love for her family. Sarah was the glue that held the family together, the one who always knew how to make everything. She had a way of turning even the most mundane tasks into something special, whether it was baking cookies with her children or simply sitting down to dinner with her husband Michael. Michael Bennet was a man of few words, but his actions spoke volumes. He was a hard-working man who had dedicated his life to providing for his family. As a carpenter, he spent his days crafting beautiful pieces of furniture, each one a testament to his skill and dedication. But it was his role as a father and husband that truly defined him. Michael was the steady rock in the family, the one who could always be counted on to offer a listening ear or a strong shoulder to lean. Together, Sarah and Michael had 3 children. Emily, the eldest at 16, Jack, who was 12, and little Lily, who was just 6 years old. Each child was a unique thread in the family tapestry, adding color and texture to the overall design. Emily was a bright and ambitious teenager with a passion for writing. She spent countless hours in her room, pouring her thoughts and dreams onto the pages of her journal. Emily was the kind of girl who always had her nose in a book and found solace in the worlds created by her favorite authors. But as much as she loved her books, Emily also had a deep love for her family. She was fiercely protective of her younger siblings and would do anything to make them happy. Jack, on the other hand, was a bundle of energy and curiosity. He was always on the move, whether he was playing soccer with his friends, exploring the woods behind their house, or tinkering with his latest invention. Jack had a knack for figuring out how things worked, and he loved nothing more than taking things apart and putting them back together again. His room was a cluttered mess of tools, gadgets, and half-finished projects. But to Jack, sanctuary, where he could let his imagination run wild. And then there was Lily, the baby of the family. Lily was a sweet and gentle soul with a love for all things beautiful. She had a collection of stuffed animals that she adored, and she would often spend hours playing with them, creating elaborate stories and adventures. Lily was also a budding artist, and her drawings and paintings were proudly displayed on the walls of the Bennet home. Despite her young age, Lily had a wisdom beyond her years, and she had a way of seeing the world that often left her family. The Bennet family's days were filled with the simple joys of life. Mornings were a flurry of activity as everyone got ready for the day ahead. Sarah would wake up early to prepare breakfast, filling the house with the delicious aroma of bacon. Michael would join her in the kitchen, sipping his coffee and reading the newspaper, while the children stumbled downstairs, still half asleep but eager to start the day. After breakfast, the family would go their separate ways. Michael would head off to work, his truck loaded with tools and materials for the day's projects. Sarah would take Lily to school, then return home to tackle the never-ending household chores. Emily and Jack would catch the bus to their respective schools, each lost in their own thoughts as they prepared for the day ahead. But no matter how busy their days were, the Bennets always made time for each other. Evenings were a sacred time for the family, a time to come together and share the events of the day. Dinner was always a lively affair, with and laughing as they enjoyed the meal Sarah had prepared. After dinner, they would often gather in the living room, where Michael would light a fire in the fireplace and the family would settle in for a cozy evening together. Sometimes they would play board games or watch a movie, but more often than not, they would simply talk. Emily would share stories from school, her eyes lighting up as she described the latest book she was reading or the essay she was working. Jack would excitedly recount his latest adventure, whether it was a soccer game or a new discovery in the woods. And Lily would proudly show off her latest artwork, her face beaming with pride as her family admired her creation. But life was not always perfect for the Bennets. Like any family, they had their share of challenges and struggles. There were times when money was tight, and Michael would work late into the night to make ends meet. There were moments of tension and disagreement, when tempers flared and harsh words were spoken. And there were days when the weight of the world seemed too heavy to bear, when the pressures of work, school, and life in general threatened to overwhelm. Yet through it all, the Bennets remained a family. They leaned on each other for support, offering comfort and encouragement when it was needed most. They celebrated each other's successes and lifted each other up in times of failure. Cried together and grew together, their bonds growing stronger with each passing day. One particularly challenging time came when Emily was in her junior year of high school. She had always been a straight A student, but as the pressure of college applications and standardized tests mounted, she began to feel the weight of expectation on her. She spent long hours studying, often staying up late into the night, and the stress began to take its toll. Sarah and Michael noticed the change in their daughter. She was quieter than usual, more withdrawn, and there was a sadness in her eyes that hadn't been there before. They tried to talk to her, to offer their support, but Emily brushed, insisting that she was fine. One evening, after a particularly grueling day at school, Emily came home and went straight to her room, slamming the door behind her. Sarah and Michael exchanged worried glances, but they decided to give her some space. Night, As Sarah was tucking Lily into bed, she heard the sound of muffled sobs coming from Emily's room. Sarah's heart ached for her daughter. She quietly opened the door and found Emily sitting on her bed, her face buried in her hands. Sarah sat down beside her and gently placed a hand on her back. "Emily, sweet, what's wrong?" Sarah asked softly. Emily looked up, her eyes filled with tears. "I just feel like I'm not good enough, Mom," she whispered. "No matter how hard I try, it's never enough. I'm so scared of failing, of letting everyone..." Sarah's heart broke for her daughter. She pulled Emily into a tight hug, holding her as she cried. "Oh, Emily, you're more than enough. You're smart, talented, and kind, and we are so proud of you. You don't have to be perfect, and you don't have to do this alone. We're here for you, always." That night, Sarah and Emily talked for hours about school, about life, about the pressures Emily was feeling. Sarah shared her own experiences, the times when she had felt overwhelmed and unsure of herself. Emily that it was okay to ask for help, that it was okay to not have all the answers. From that night on, the Bennets made a conscious effort to support Emily in any way they could. Michael took on more of the household chores, giving Sarah more time to spend with Emily. Jack and Lily did their part too, offering words of encouragement and doing their best to keep the house a peaceful and happy place. Slowly but surely, Emily began to find her balance again. She still worked hard, but she also made time for herself, for the things she loved. She started writing again, not just for school, but for herself. She found solace in her work, in the stories she created, and she began to see that her worth was not defined by her grades or her achievements, but by the person she was. As the months passed, the Bennets continued to navigate the ups and downs of life together. There were moments of joy, like when Jack's soccer team won the championship, or when Lily's painting was chosen to be displayed in the school art. There were moments of sadness, like when Michael's father passed away, leaving a void in their lives that could never be filled. But through it all, they remained a family, bound together by love and a shared commitment to each other. One evening, as the family gathered around the dinner table, Sarah looked around at her loved ones and felt a deep sense of gratitude. She thought about the journey they had been on, the challenges they had faced, and the love that had carried them through. It's about the tapestry of their lives, woven together by the threads of their experiences, their triumphs and their struggles. "Mom, what are you thinking about?" Lily asked. Her big brown eyes filled with curiosity. Sarah smiled and reached out to tousle Lily's hair. "I was just thinking about how lucky we are," she said. "We have each other. And that's the most important thing in the world." The children nodded, their faces reflecting the same sense of gratitude. Michael reached across the table and took Sarah's hand, giving it a gentle squeeze. "We are lucky," he agreed. "And no matter what, we'll always have each other." As the sun set outside, casting a warm glow over the Bennett home. The family sat together, their hearts full of love and their spirits lifted by the knowledge that they were not alone. They were a family, bound the threads of their shared experiences, their triumphs, and their struggles. And in that moment, they knew that no matter what the future held, they would face it together as a family. The tapestry of their lives was far from finished, but it was already a masterpiece, a beautiful and intricate design that told the story of a family who loved each other deeply and unconditionally. And as they sat together, sharing a meal, joys of life, they knew that their story was one worth telling, a story of love, resilience, and the unbreakable bonds of family.